Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and it's that time again. We're talking about GLC. I actually haven't been paying a ton of attention to the meta, but today we're going to be looking at seven decks, I think, that all won tournaments. Um, and I wanted to see what's good. And spoilers, there's one type that it looks like is the best, which is really interesting. It's not a type. It's not necessarily a type that's been bad in the past. In fact, it's been good in the past, but it's a little different now. I'd say it's. Well, we'll talk about that. But first of all, we have Psychic. And this is Psychic with a few interesting things. First of all, I guess it's focused around, there's two things, right? So first of all, we have some like heavy disruption, right? We have Trevenant, which if it's in the active is item lock. Wobbuffet, if it's in the active, is ability lock. And Garbodor, if it has a tool, is ability lock. Garbodor will turn off your own abilities. This list doesn't have a ton of abilities, so you can't ability lock and item lock at the same time, which is kind of the point. But aside from that, ability lock and item lock are both super annoying to have to deal with. On top of that, we have Golurk, which does 150 for 3 if it has a tool, or 190 for 4. 190 for 4 is not amazing. 150 for 3 is a very solid. And then Necrozma here it does 160 for 3 on a basic if it has a special energy attached, which also has barrier attack. Um, Trevenant and Wobbuffet don't have complete trash attacks, but then we have a few other basic attackers. First of all, we have Shining Mew. This is a setup-based Pokemon. It only has 30 HP and has free retreat, but the 30 HP is low. But and this is not Mew as well as a different name. It's Shining Mew. So you could run a Mew, but Legendary Guidance search your deck for up to 2 energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon any way you like, then shuffle your deck. This includes special energy. So we run a bunch of different special energies in a list like this. Um, Including double colorless, counter energy, reversal energy, which are all quite useful, and you can put those as well as Horse Psychic and Mystery Energy. It doesn't matter too much what they do. All you have to know if you don't know them is that they're psychic or multi-type energy. Well, not double colorless, but anyway, they help pay your attacks. Allow you to power up Necrozma. We also see Mimikyu. Mimikyu copies your opponent's, like the attack your opponent used last turn, assuming it wasn't a GX attack, which is something you can use in GLC, but it's pretty rare. Then there's Mewtwo. This Mewtwo is so good. It hits 180 if your opponent has 3 or fewer prizes remaining, which is, I mean, that's like half the game, right? It's not, it's probably less than half the game. It's probably like a third of the game, but it's still pretty useful. Um, because it's a lot of damage and it's not that hard to pay. It's kind of like Necrozma. Arguably, it's better than Necrozma. It doesn't require special energy, but it requires that being behind the prizes. Nihilego as well. This is one of my all-time favorite cards. First of all, Void Tentacles can confuse and poison. It can be a Hail Mary type of play, but Nightcap only used if your opponent has exactly 2 prize cards remaining. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. That is obviously very that's very powerful depending on what attacks they have. In this, unlike Mimikyu, you choose and it's from any of your opponent's Pokemon, not just their active, so potentially can be super powerful. The list also runs another 30 HP, a free retreat, a basic, and Cleffa for free. Grasping draw till you have 7 in your hand. This is a newer card, not like super new, but relatively new. That's a pretty nice addition. As like an engine, instead of Curlia and Zadu, we only see 5 basic psychics. Aside from that, we do see Luxurious Cape, unsurprisingly, in a lot of these lists, and Technical Machine Turbo Energized, allowing you to set up instead of like Shiny View. It functions very similarly. Of course, Marshadow as well for that. Hand disruption on play, it's pretty much a judge. Um, Aside from that, the list is pretty straightforward. It does use Clavel or Clavel. I comment down below how you pronounce this. I actually don't know. If someone could tell me that, would be useful if it's Clavel or Clavel or Clavel. I've heard a bunch of different things. Claviel. That can't be right. But I think I say Clavel or Clavel. I don't know. Anyways, it's search check for up to 3 basic Pokemon with 120 HP or less, then put them into your hand. So you don't put them onto your bench. You can grab Marshadow off of that. This doesn't actually grab Mewtwo or Necrozma, but it grabs the rest of your basics and can grab Marshadow, which you can then just play. And no Scoop of Net to me is a little weird. I don't think that's here. I feel like that's good, but I'm a big fan of that card as well. That's another one of my all-time favorite cards. And then it is Special Energy Focus, so we do see Guzman Hala, and we have that kind of package in there with a bunch of tools. Tools are pretty normal, but we see above average count with Town Store, and then the TM for your treat-based tools, and we see a bunch of stadiums, and we see um, obviously those special energies because Guzman gets those 3 types of cards. and then enhanced hammer and field blower for some a little extra disruption. As well as like Iona, and in Iona are like in pretty much every deck, but still important to note. And next up we have colorless, and colorless is the type that I actually have 3 lists here that all won events. These two are very similar. I actually don't know the differences. I didn't really look yet. Um, I gotta assume they're very similar. So first of all, here we have Cyclozar. Oh, we have Bibarel and Squovit and Oranguru. Squovit sets your hand down to 1, and then you can use Bibarel to draw till 5, or Oranguru to draw till 3. Oranguru also has Psychic, 60 and 20 more for each of your points um, energy attached to their active, which is potentially a lot. It's not going to be hitting anything absurd, most likely, but it can hold its own in a 1v1 matchup sometimes. It's not an ideal target, but it is an option. Kind of like Lugia, which does 20 for each energy attached to each active. This can attack for less and can do more, and you have Deep Crush, which can also do 160 for 4. And surprisingly, we have a lot of special energies. We have Double Colorless, Double Turbo, and Twin, as well as Gift, Caption, Therapeutic, Therapeutics, and Powerful Colorless. Powerful Colorless is very good. Therapeutic is here for Snorlax, which does 180 for 3, but then puts itself to sleep, and then you need to flip double heads to wake up. You're also immune to effects of attacks, which is really nice, but yeah. Anyway, so Snorlax is quite powerful here. And as well as Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan's really nice with Rally Back 120 if one of your opponent's Pokemon was knocked out for last turn for 2 colorless. And this is potentially really powerful, obviously, with like just one attachment hitting 120 or 100 if you attach a double turbo. Unsurprisingly, with the list being focused around special energy, it runs through some Hala, and it runs also Nalo and Lana for a pseudo tag team package with tag call. I feel like Cynthia and Caitlyn would be good here, but it's not necessarily needed either. And then Cyclozar as well. I should talk about Cyclozar as a newer card, one of the newest cards we're talking about. Diving Buddy here, 70 but 140 if you played a supporter from your hand this turn. Hitting 140 for 3 is okay. I mean, it's good, but compared to something like Snorlax, it's not as much, and Lugia potentially it's not as much, but it's not bad and can be very powerful. Kelos also has like Winona, which is nice. Then we see some disruption elements like Hex Maniac. Me in here as well as scooping it for healing. Of course, we have a lot of tools as well. So we have a really high HP with Luxurious Cape, Fighting Fairy Belt, Cape of Toughness, which is the same as. Actually, Cape of Toughness is technically worse than um, the Bravery Charm, but in GLC it's the same thing. So pretty consistency focused, and then we do see TM Turbo Energize and Mela as well. Sometimes you could see Welder in a list like this, but you just want to get Fire Energy on all your Pokemon. You just want to accelerate it and then hit, but not necessarily Fire Energy. It can be Special Energy, but you can also use Fire Energy, and you kind of split between those two ideas. Mela is also super good, and that's actually being reprinted in standard, or actually it's being improved upon in standard. There's a new future card, Cryptomaniacs Deciphering or something. Search deck for up to 2 cards, and then you shuffle your deck and then put those 2 cards on top in any order, which is extremely useful. Uh, Specifically with Squovit and Bibarel and Oranguru here. Overall, it's a very simple list, and the next list is similar as well. We do actually see Rhyme. Rhyme's a really interesting supporter that I was not expecting to see here. Draw 3, switch out your opponent's active to the bench. It's really interesting. To me, it doesn't seem that good. The attackers, by the way, are the same. For the most part, it's pretty similar, but as I said, a few differences. Um, no Hex Maniac. It doesn't look like. We do see Raihan as well in both lists. Raihan's really good. It's probably better than Bella because it searches for any card instead of draw to 6. If one of your Pokemon is knocked out last turn, you still get that energy acceleration. Looks like same special energy, I think. Yeah, these 2 lists are very similar. I don't know if they were the same person. I think they were not, but I could be wrong. And these lists are all from play.limitless. So you go to the Play Limitless website and press like GLC. And then the tournaments and then GLC. So this is a little different here though. It's not completely different though. Keep that in mind. As we do see the Kangaskhan, the Snorlax, it's like click the wrong ones, and then Cyclozar. And then we also see Tauros. Tauros is interesting here, 80 for 2 colorless, which is actually very solid. If you're not like knocked out last turn, it's pretty good. And the third to yourself, Raging Bull, 20 and 20 more for each damage count on this Pokemon, and it's now confused. But if you're hit for 120 or one-shotting everything, if you're hit for 50, You're one-shotting a lot of things. So it's really powerful. If you use takedown, then you can use Raging Bull for 80 again, but if you use takedown twice, then you have 60 on you, or you're hitting 140 next turn, which is insane. So you can punish weak starts, and it's only 2 colorless energy, which is potentially really useful. On top of that, we see Welder popping in here, as I mentioned earlier, and Fiery Torch and some more fire-based stuff. And then we see, in terms of special energies, the only special energies we see are the double energies and Twin, Double Turbo, Double Colorless, and Counter Energy. And we also see Counter Gain. I don't remember if these lists ran. I don't think they did. Counter Gain is decent, giving you a cheaper attack if you're down on prizes. We also see Max Elixir, so this list is kind of turbo-y, but it's also kind of not turbo-y, as we see 3 Stage 1 lines in the Barrel, the Genshin, and Pidgeotto, instead of the Squova and Oranguru. So a little more setup based. Interestingly, we see Delinquent. Delinquent is very powerful. You discard a stadium in play. If you do, your opponent discards 3 cards from their hand, which is insane. Like, well, okay, it can be insane. If they only have 3 cards in hand, it's insane. Um, they choose, which is means that they're going to keep the best cards, but this could be really brutal. If you hit them with an Iono, the list doesn't run N, which is kind of weird to me, but you run Iono, so you Iono them, and then they're like, okay, I got 2 cards. They draw one, and they like play it, and then they like draw another, and then you're like delinquent, and okay, their hand's gone, which is insane. Of course, it doesn't necessarily do anything other than that. But it can be really. I mean, it's banned and expanded, right? So you can see here it's a banned. Oh, apparently these are all the banned cards. I did not mean to click that. But yeah, delinquent is not banned in GLC. It's quite good in GLC. But then speaking of banned cards, well, Orangu is, Bunnelby is not. This list, okay, this is interesting. So Bunnelby's a really interesting card. I feel like there is a card missing that I would add. But Bunnelby can attack twice due to its ancient trait. Ancient traits are very similar to abilities, but they are not abilities, so it cannot be turned off by ability lock. Off the top of my head, I don't think anything specifically interacts with that. Like with the ancient traits, as about like says, oh, ancient traits something like you can use ancient traits or you search for a Pokemon with ancient traits. I don't think there are, but as I said earlier, if I'm wrong about that, comment that down below because I forget. But Omega Barrage is the ancient trait, or Barrage. I don't know what people call it. I usually call it Omega Barrage, though. And you can attack twice. You can use Burrow to mill one, or Rototiller to recover a card from your discard into your deck. Both of those are quite powerful. And you can mix and match as well. But then you can also use Technical Machines. Um, oh, this is the same page. Yeah, this list does not run any Technical Machines, however. But there is a Technical Machine called well, there's a bunch, right? But there is Technical Machine Crisis Punch. I don't know when this tournament was ran. I don't remember when the different ones were, but I think Paladin Fates was illegal for some, but not all. I don't know. But Crisis Punch does 280 if your opponent has 1 prize remaining, and you can copy it with, or you can use it with Bunnelby. Use that twice in a row, so you just take 2 KOs, which, in my opinion, I feel like should be used here. In that combo, Bunnelby plus Crisis Punch is incredibly powerful. In fact, it might even on the thumbnail. I haven't designed the thumbnail yet, but I might be because it's super sick. You can just hit 280. It is 3, but like that's 100 or more damage than Snorlax's 180, which is already insane. And 180 admittedly is almost enough to one-shot everything, but like hitting 280 twice, that just 2 KOs. Your opponent's not like surviving any hits there. Then also runs this chat out, which I'm not super familiar with. Shuffle your hand to your deck, draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. That's kind of weird to me. Why it's in the list. I could be missing something. Not that it's bad though either. It is just a generic draw attack, and I'm not familiar with all the draw attacks. Um, for like the different types, I've played a lot of themed, but I know like wishy-washy, and there's a bunch of them. But Chatot could be the best. I do feel like if you're Ion to low, it's useless. But I guess Ion to low is Chatot's not really what you want to be doing, but still, there's some interesting things here. Aside from that, it's a similar style list, but more focused on the fire energies. Um, then you have Hex Maniac again. Hex Maniac is a very good card. Does not turn off Bunnelby though because it's not an ability, which is nice. That's why Ancient Traits are better than abilities, and you'll see that in like expanded decks and things like that. Um, though they're pretty rare. They're in like one set or something. They might have been in a few sets. I don't remember. Um, is Bunnelby banned and expanded? No, it's not. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was for a second. I was like, wait, no, it's not. Anyway, pretty straightforward stuff. It's like very serious and straightforward, just attacking big damage colorless, which I'm not sure what I think about, if I think it's cool or not. In some sense, it is kind of fun because you got like these moderately different attackers, but at the same time, just big basics are kind of boring. They're kind of boring in standard, and they're kind of boring in GLC too. As I said, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts down below on this, and if big basics are bad for GLC, or if they're good. And I think I don't know. I like decks that have a wide variety of attackers. That's how I like it. Even the psychic deck was kind of big basic-y. But let's take a look at a few more decks. We got, yeah, okay, I was gonna say, so we got fire, water, and metal, all winning events. But fire here, this isn't exactly big basic-y, but it kind of is. We do see a stage 2 line, though, of course, with a Berg Charizard. A very good Charizard, at least, Burn Brightly, doubling all the fire energy attached to all your Pokemon, which is quite good. We have Welner, Mela, Blacksmith, no, Raihan. As I said, I think Raihan might be better than Mela, but that's fine. Oh, is Mela Mela or Mela? Um, anyway, I should learn some of these pronunciations. Uh, anyway, so we got Slugma, my favorite Pokemon, but we also have Macargo. It's Smooth Over. I know Salazzle here, which means that like, well, Salazzle isn't guaranteed draw, but Macargo is very good. Just searching a deck for any card, putting it on top. We see Arcanine as well. This Arcanine is pretty powerful, but also Grand Flames, Fire, 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 attached to Fire from discard 20 or bench Pokemon, and you do 120, which is quite useful for like continuing things. You can also do 190 for 4. That's a lot. I think I said that earlier with the big hands guy with Golurk. And so Arcanine's like very similar, but kind of used for streaming attacks as well. Then we have some big basics. First of all, I do have Moltres, which has Fear Retreat, but doesn't have Fire on, which is not going to be unlikely. I guess it's a fire deck, but that's cool. But then you also have Blazing Flight, discard 2 fire attached to it, meaning you still will have another fire, so you can retreat. Does 120 to 1 your opponent's bench Pokemon, and it is weak to lightning. I didn't talk about weakness too much, but a lot of the decks were weak to just like one specific type. Outside the Psychic, Psychic's weak to itself a lot of the time, and then also weak to Dark, but it's very commonly weak to Darkness. But Fire, very weak to water, and as I said, water is just good. But Moltres being weak to lightning is nice. It is the only Pokemon weak to lightning in this list, and in fact not weak to water. So is it good enough to carry you in that matchup? No, but there's a thing. Then we also see Heatmore with Absurd Snipe if you have 6 energy, which is not that hard to do if you have Charizard in play. Then you get 3 on through either Welder or Blacksmith. Let me pull up Heatmore again. You do 90 to the active and 180 to one of your opponent's bench for, as I said, 6 energy. That's a lot of energy, but it is very doable in a deck like this. If you pull it off, it's very powerful. Assuming they don't have bench barrier. If they have bench barrier, it's not so powerful. Um, and some types have bench barrier, obviously. Water has bench barrier. Yeah, it is in the list. I guess only a few types do. Fairy, Psychic, Water, and then some types have some pseudo bench barrier, like Fighting. Then there's a Stadium as well. There's Mountain Ring or Skyfield. Skyfield is better than Mountain Ring. Anyway, so Heatmore is potentially a very big important part of your plan. Then you also have Volcanion, Flare Starter, search check for 3 basic fire energy and attach them to your Pokemon any way you like. High Heat Blast 110 for 2 fire, assuming you have 4 fire in play. So that's potentially really useful. Tournament going second, it's nice. It's a little awkward to pull off. There are not, I think, a lot of switching options in this list. Yeah, there's like a few. I don't know how much your goal is to go for that, but you have some turbo aspects with Acrobike and Bicycle. And it is searchable, obviously, but not the most searchable. I feel like a card like Level Ball isn't that good in a list like this. Even Heavy Ball. Heavy Ball is okay, but they each I think they each search 4 targets. Oh no, Level Ball searches 5. And Heavy Ball searches it's 3 retreat or more. Oh, that Growlithe has 3 retreat. I did not know that. Never mind. It searches 5 as well. So maybe they're both worthwhile. Um, yeah, you have like a semi-turbo-y deck. You have Order Pad, Battle VIP Pass as well. Hot take. I don't know if this is a hot take. I don't love Battle VIP Pass and GLC. I think it's a bit of a discussion. I get the value. It's a good card. It's a little awkward to find though, because you have Arven, You have Order Pad, I guess, and you have some like semi-turbo things. You do have ways to discard it as well, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan. You have Pokestop as well, another turbo card. Anyway, and then we have Entei. Entei is super good. It's really powerful. It takes 20 less from damage as well. Or in fact, your opponent's active do 20 less. So if they're playing spread, they hit and you have like Entei in the active, not just hitting into Entei, but if they're hitting the bench, then they do 20 less to all your Pokemon, which is insane. I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah, that's like really crazy. I'm like reading it again because that just seems like weird, but yeah, as long as this Pokemon's in the active, attacks used by your opponent's active Pokemon do 20 less damage. And it's before weakness and resistance, which is even better. And often like that's not how it works. So that's really useful. But then you have Blaze Ball, 60, 20 more for each fire energy attached to it. It's like a decent card. Let's see, does Water play a card like this? It doesn't. So the fact that like Water like doesn't is just showing you that like Ent is good. Ent is very good, and it's like very nice with the fire archetype. But Water has plenty of cards like this that are not necessarily better, but very very similar. But Ent is good, right? If you have 3 energy, you're hitting 120. But for if you want to hit say like 180, you need 6 energy. But as I said, you can just slap on a the Charizard, but you have the 3 energy, and then you're one-shotting like pretty much everything. So that's very powerful. And Fire is potentially very strong. I think based around Entei, and then you have like the Arcanine, and you're relying on these combo style pieces. But the deck is very powerful when set up. And again, it's big basic right? Which I'm not sure I feel about. But this deck is not a big basic style deck. This is a really interesting deck. This is a water spread based deck. Of course, Amazing Rare Kyogre is banned, which is interesting. But Kyogre is also it was kind of broken, right? So I'm Amazing Rare is topic for another day. But water is still good. We have Frogadier, which when you evolve into it, you place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, like um Crobat, no, Golbat. Yeah, there we go, like Golbat. And then you have Greninja, which when it's attacked, it's immune to damage in a coin flip, which is so annoying. But it's good. And then you have Furious Shurikens, 50 to 2 your opponent's Pokemon, which is really nice. It's not broken, but it's quite solid. Aside from that, you have Frostmoth for acceleration. It's a stage 1 though, so it's not like necessary. And it's also easy to get up. It's just a really good Pokemon all in all. In addition to like the rest of the water type, it's one of the best cards. Although the grass does have Cherim, which doesn't see very much play, but I don't know. That's grass is weird. Octillery then and Inteleon and Drizzle, insane engines, and of course Octillery can attack as well. Aqua Bullet 120 to the active, 20 to one of your opponent's bench. Also, I should say the abilities for those of you who don't know. Octillery draw till 5. Frostmoth is acceleration, as much as you like to your bench Pokemon. And then Inteleon and Drizzle have, when you evolve into them, search for a trainer. Inteleon is 2 trainers and Drizzle is 1, which is useful. And then Starmie, this is a new card, a really interesting card. It's kind of like the Inteleon, the other Inteleon with its ability, but we see Starmie here with Mysterious Comet. When starting your turn, you place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And if you did this, discard this Pokemon, all cards attached. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. You can recover it with stuff. With all sorts of various recovery methods. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if I necessarily think it's super strong. It's a card I like. It's a really cool card, but it's interesting to see it in this deck. And then we also see a Lone Vulpix for setup, Manaphy for the bench player, Articuno, another Ancient Trait, Delta Plus. If you take a KO with this Pokemon, you take an extra prize, which is very good. Tri-Edge is not so good. Well, it's for 3 colors, 20. Flip 3 coins, 40 more for each heads. On average, that is going to be hitting 80, which is not too bad. Of course, you're never going to hit 80 with this, but if you flip 1 head, that's 60, and you can kind of rely on 1 head. So if you're hitting 60, that's good. You're gonna gamble on that card. And then last we have Krabby. 10 to each your opponent's Pokemon. For 1 water, we see all sorts of cards like this, and this is just a very simple one. So you want to kind of just disrupt your opponent with cards like Silent Lab. We have CT and Blindside as well. Do 100 snipe to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with damage counters on it. Or actually, no, it can hit their active, but that's pretty nice. Um, it can be a little awkward to use. You do need 3 energy, but you do have Frostmoth to get the Articuno TM Blindside powered up. In addition to Raihan, and you'll attach it. It's not a huge deal. And then you have Aqua Patch as well, which accelerates in energy. Overall, I think Water is kind of fun. I think Spread's fun as well. Of course, Water does have Manaphy, which is kind of weird, and like Bench Barrier is rare, but not unheard of. A lot of decks do play it if they have the option to. Psychic decks don't always, though. I think the Psychic list we looked at didn't run Mew. Anyway, let's move on. Lastly, to Metal. I'm gonna get another big basic style deck in general, but this one's Metal. We do see some evolutions though, saying it's a big basic deck. Actually, that might not really be a fair evaluation of it. I don't know. First of all, you have Bronzong with Metal Links. It's like Flaffy. It's like Electric. It's like Malamar. Sorry, a basic energy from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon, a basic metal energy. Glaring Meowth stretches for Glaring Berserker, which says your metal Pokemon do 20 more. Then we have Bisharp. Bisharp's really interesting. It's pretty straightforward, but it's a cool card. Does 120 to one of your opponent's to your opponent's active if this Pokemon has no damage on it, which is a very solid amount of damage. 120 for one on stage one. It's very good if it would just be that, and oftentimes it is. The first time you play it, you hit KO. And that's it though. You do have ways to reduce damage. We have Metal Goggles, but only reduces 30. Okay, you have Metal Energy. Wait, what's no Shield Energy? Which I don't. For some reason, I thought this was like Metal Energy. For those of you who don't know, Metal and Darkness were introduced later into Pokemon TCG's history. They didn't have basic energy when they were first revealed. They like only had special energy. And the naming conventions get weird because of that, because it was just darkness energy and metal energy, I believe. Anyway, so you do have Metagross as well. You can only play this because it doesn't run the pre-evolutions. You can only play this if you do it top deck at the beginning of your turn, and your bench isn't full, of course. If you do, you draw 3, which is a nice benefit, but it has an attack 100 for 2. Next turn does 200. And so you can guarantee the top deck with Mallow. What do you have? Switching Cups. I don't know. This seems kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about Metagross, but yeah. Then we have. I should talk about Jirachi. Look at the top 5. Put a trainer there into your hand. You go to sleep, but that's not a huge deal. Yeah, because you have a skateboard, so you can retreat. You also have Zacian, Battle Legion, 20 and 10 more for each of your bench Pokemon. It also hits through effects, so this is decent. Hitting up to 70 for one metal on a basic is pretty decent. Cobalion can use his first attack, making you immune to basics next turn, which can be nice, but the big thing here is Revenge Blast for 2 metal, 30, and 30 more for each prize your opponent's taken. This card was like so broken back in the day. Or like not, it was very solid, right? Taking into account power creep. When attacks used to just do less, it can do up to 180 for 2 metal on a basic, which is pretty insane. So yeah, that card's kind of good. It's very good in this deck. Then Zamazenta, speaking of big damage, retaliate 120 or sorry 100 120 morph when your opponent was not one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Meaning you can do 220, which is insane. And then you can do Metal Shield, it takes 30 less, so you're semi-tanky. You don't really want to be spamming attacks with this because you're not doing absurd amounts of damage. You're just doing 100 after that. But it's still an incredibly powerful Pokemon. But overall, I feel like the deck's cool. I do think this Bisharp is really fun. Some fond memories of this card. Not the best card. It's kind of bad, but GLC is pretty good. Some cool ideas. Overall, though, I feel like Big Basics are kind of taking over GLC. But you have some cool combos with like the ancient traits. I think ancient traits are kind of fun, kind of weird, kind of silly, but kind of fun. Then we have some like semi-disruption stuff, but a lot of it is, as I said, big basics. So I don't know how I feel about the format right now, but overall, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, of course, consider subscribing. Comment down below your thoughts on this as well, and like the video if you enjoyed. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.